Hello and welcome to Post-Burnout.com interviews. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. My name is Aaron Kavanagh and I'm the website's founder and editor-in-chief. This is our website's podcast where we publish the full interviews from our site's articles and sometimes release exclusive episodes. In this edition of Post-Burnout.com interviews, Emily Dollery and Cormac Donovan O'Neill of the Cork noise rock band Therapy Horse discuss forming the project while working at UCC 98.3 FM. Their debut single Let Me Be Clear and how it unflinchingly tackles misogyny-based trauma, the Cork music scene, how Cormac balances this project with Pebbledash, which he also plays in, their sound and setup, and much more. Therapy Horse will make their Dublin debut on September 6th when they play upstairs at Whelan supporting Silverglass. Then on September 11th they will headline the Kino in Cork with special guests Silverglass and Jody Line. Tickets for both of those shows are available in the description of this episode. Thank you very much and enjoy.
Hi there.
Hey Emily, how's it going? Will it just be
Hi.
us or the others showing us?
Hi there. I think I just got a text from Cormac. He should be on in a second. His internet is just really bad out
Oh,
where he
perfect,
is.
yeah. No,
Nice.
I was seeing with that today. I don't know if he has Virgin, but yeah, Virgin was giving me some hassle today, so.
Oh, really? Yeah, he's out in West Cork, so his Wi-Fi, I've experienced it myself. It's not good. Um I think yeah, it'll be at least myself and Cormac today, and I'm not sure if our drummer Shook will be there, but yeah, lovely to meet you.
Yeah, lovely to meet you too. Yeah, drummers, notoriously reliable people. No, I'm joking.
Exactly.
I guess I'll start then before Cormac joins. I'll ask a little bit about your background as a musician because, oh, well, here he is now, actually.
Oh, great.
Sorry. Yeah, I guess well, hmm. I guess he just sort of left.
I think that's his Wi-Fi. It's really bad. He texted me there about it, but he'll keep trying to get on, I think, but it's really bad.
That's perfect. Um, I think he's here.
Oh yeah. Can I tell you? COVID flashbacks.
Yeah. This was every day for me. No.
Oh my God. I was same. I did the whole I remember it hit when I was in first year college and it was just every day. Oh, there you are.
Hi, Cork. Hello. Oh, I can hear you now. How are you?
Not too bad. No, I apologize in advance. My connection is a bit useless, but thank you for
It's
having
all
me.
good. No, absolutely. Thanks for doing it. Yeah, I was going to ask a little bit about kind of your individual backgrounds. Because I know Emily, for example, you've actually studied music at third level, if I'm getting that correct. And Cormac, I know you've been sort of making music yourself for a while before joining Pebbledash. So I was wondering, maybe if you could talk individually about your backgrounds a little bit.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, um I studied music and English in UCC.
Mhm.
Um Started playing guitar when I was 12, I want to say. But I didn't actually start playing the bass, which is what I do in Therapy Horse. I didn't start that until it's actually really dorky. I was like 16 and I wanted to play guitar in the school's like pit orchestra for the TY musicals,
Mhm.
and they had too many guitars. So the music teacher was like, "Can you learn to like play and sight read bass for this?" So that was, but I kind of fell in love with the instrument from then. But yeah, so I did music and English in UCC. I think one of the major things that got me into kind of local music would have been so I myself am from Limerick, even though the band is based in Cork. And I was involved in Music Generation, the Limerick Voices program they have out
Yep.
there, which produced like a load of really good artists. I mean, like I know that Laura Duff, I believe Denise Tyler, Pow Pig, all kind of came from there. But basically, they just take all the teenagers and kind of pick groups and be like, you write a song today about this thing. And that was kind of my first introduction to the local scene. Like I remember that was around the time when the DIYLK collective was really strong in Limerick. And there were all these bands going, like I was kind of introduced like Bleeding Heart Pigeons, His Father's Voice, Anna's Anchor, among many others. And then I moved to Cork in about 2019 for college. And obviously COVID hit, but I did kind of I was able to get involved with the Cork scene. But yeah, I'm a bit nerdy, bit of a geeky background, but
And for yourself, Cormac?
Yeah, I suppose in terms of my own musical background, I wouldn't study music formally like Emily or anything, which I think comes through guitar playing and therapy or just doing art degree. But I'd have done a few years just keys lessons and stuff would have been kind of my first brush with music and stuff. So piano would have been my first instrument, and I just sort of um, learned that formal setting on and off for a few years, and ended up in a situation that I think a lot of people end up in, where at a certain stage you get to a certain level of formal music education, and then you just kind of wing it from there. Um, and in terms of guitar, which I play in Therapy Horse, I suppose I've been playing since I was about 16 or 17, so I came to that a bit later. In terms of making music myself, kind of my introduction to the Cork music scene, like Emily, would come when I was in secondary school, just through a result of a few lads in my class starting a gig in the scene that rotated around the YMCA in Cork City. So there would have been bands like The Drive now who are still going. A few of those lads would have been in my year in school and things like that. And through there, I would have bands like Doubt, who members of that now would be in Camp Pineapple, and they would have been Rasputin Boots, and um, bands like the Mary Claire's at the time who now would be, some of them would be little known. And I suppose that's kind of how I would have got involved in that scene. I would have made music myself just on a fairly low key basis, which would have mostly been kind of the ambient and electronic kind of realm that's still knocking around on SoundCloud, and but I suppose my main introduction to gigging would have only really come when I joined the Pebbledash, which would have been at the tail end of 2023 only.
Yeah.
So my actual kind of experience of a gigging musician now, as opposed to just a kind of a music journalist and general scene hanger on person, is relatively brief. But I play synth and a bit of guitar and Pebbledash. And then Therapy Horse would have started, I suppose myself and Emily would have been working together in the college radio station in UCC. And we would have just started writing songs. I feel like was it early 2024?
yeah, I think we talked about
Something
it for
like
ages. I think the first time we got together and wrote something was probably, I want to say March or April.
that. So it's, it started off, I think, in a very different form to the shape that it would take eventually now, like that you'd hear on it, Be Clear. Um, it was a lot more, I suppose, dream poppy, the kind of bands we would have been inspired by at the time in terms of songwriting, been like the likes of Heath and Beach House.
Mm.
And I think it's fair to say like we've moved in a fairly different direction now. Shook, our drummer as well, who'd also play in Pebbledash, he would have started playing with us kind of the end of last year, and he just adds so much to the band, and I think really has been a massive part in how heavy, I suppose, a direction we've taken for definite.
So let's go there. Actually, it's unfortunate. Owen just left because he just popped in there for like a second and left. So maybe we'll see him again. But so it's an interesting thing. So I was aware of your background in terms of like starting at the radio station. So when you guys were speaking, um, was it just kind of like, I don't know, general idea of like let's start something, or did you have particular influences in mind, a particular direction?
Yeah, I definitely think we had particular influences in mind. It was very different, but I think initially I had a few bits that I had kind of thrown together when I should have been working when I was working at the radio station. Like I used to lock myself if I had nothing to do, I used to like lock myself into the podcast studio and just mess around with, like MIDI stuff and throw in like a million vocal tracks into Reaper and like come up with these really weird harmonies and stuff. But it was initially, yeah, I think I had kind of Beach House broadcast that kind of yeah, I suppose quirky, dream poppy, lo-fi stuff in mind. And I also think Yeah, I think at first we were kind of torn influence wise between did we want to go that route, or I also really like a lot of kind of, I suppose, like folk infused rock bands, or even bands like Wednesday where they bring in that kind of country influence. They're probably my favorite current band going. Or Big Thief, I know, was on the inspiration playlist we made. We put together, we were like, okay, we'll make a collab playlist of sounds you want to pull from. And I think it ended up being about 9 hours long. Um it kind of devolved from there.
But,
I think we started kind of
yeah,
going in and jamming in our rehearsal space, and it kind of took on a bit of a new, more horrifying, off-putting form.
Well, I actually don't. Well, based on the first single
I
that you were
think that
about to
was it.
release. Sorry, go ahead, Cormac.
No, I think that even looking back at that playlist, I think you can kind of see the, the direction of it go from this sort of very, I suppose, shoegaze inflected kind of folk rock bands eventually to just getting to stuff like Lingua Ignota and like Earth. And like, I think that has ended up being somewhat closer to what we do now for that one.
Yeah.
What's there? Because we're mentioning the radio station that you're working on. I just wanted to ask this briefly. Was there when it came to the actual songs you had to broadcast? I mean, did you just have full dictation over that, or was the program kind of scheduled for you?
Oh, we had probably too much freedom. I was I was kind of managing because it was at a bit basically the manager of 20 years. He changed departments in UCC. So because that there were a few kind of interim managers who were students, and they trained me in and then they went on to do different things. So I was a supervisor, but I was the only person working full time and there wasn't a station manager. So yeah, like, oh my God, I used to have a show on UCFM called Secretaries to Kill, named after them. So I Watch You From Afar song, and I used to just go
Mhm.
in and like it'd be awful, like it'd be a mix of, it could go from just like a nice old LCD sound system song or kind of, local folk artist, and then it'd be like, okay, here's this new song by like, there was one I remember, I think I did get some comment made to me because it was like a collab between Chelsea Wolf and I think the guy from like Converge or something. They were like, oh, they could see like the monitoring was just, it was like a big block of sound. Or like stuff like Bertie Ahern by the Rubber Bandits, or loads of like girl band, or like the more abrasive even just like those kind of windmill really loud bands. So no, like I think we probably had too much freedom, and like Cormac's show um Radio Free ECC was similar, like it was kind of everything. So, but I suppose it's kind of uncommercial, so we were able to do whatever within reason. Like we were able to put on kind of whatever.
That's perfect. Did you kind of like, do you think the music you were like broadcasting on there was giving you, I don't know, was kind of the catalyst, I guess, for the birth of this band, or is it just kind of, I don't know, coincidental, I guess, in the sense like, I don't know, what I'm trying to ask, sorry, to put it more succinctly, was the music that you were broadcasting and listening to every day kind of giving you the idea, the spark, the germ of Therapy Horse, or was it just kind of coinciding at the same time?
That's a really good question. I kind of think it did, because I think even just like myself and Cormac met through that radio station, and we even like for a while even it'd be like if there was some really weird experimental gig on, like it was kind of like we'd often just go together because it was like nobody else is going to agree to come to this with me. So I think we're able to kind of spot each other in that way, and that we had, we knew that we were both people who were willing to do kind of weird stuff. And yeah, I absolutely think I kind of became more and more drawn to really loud, blown out, abrasive stuff through that. And I think it definitely did get me thinking like, oh, I'd love to do something like this. It must be so cathartic to create something like that, because I hadn't really been involved in like a noise rock project, but
Mhm.
before then it wasn't really something that I, so yeah, I definitely think, and even just, I suppose, when you're doing a radio show like every week and you're trying to find new stuff and you're trying to find local stuff, I think you know yourself, like, and you get really clued into what's happening, and I think it kind of puts a bit of a fire in your belly to experiment yourself and to find stuff that's weirder and weirder, you
I
know?
definitely do relate to that, yes. Cormac, I want to ask. So you mentioned that this band kind of started around the time that you were joining Pebbledash. Now, obviously, Pebbledash in the last years just had like a huge explosion. So I was wondering, how do you kind of like make time for this project and Pebbledash at the same time?
Yeah, I suppose it hasn't really been, much of a challenge, I suppose, at the moment, especially because we're all very good friends, obviously the two of us, myself and Shug are on Pebbledash as well, but Emily would have played bass on tour with us at times, and we're all very
Yeah.
close as well with Pebbledash. And I think whenever you're involved in projects like that and you want to kind of give your creative energy to both of them, it's just about like communication and making sure that kind of just everyone is aware of like there's a gig here and a gig there, and just it's just scheduling and communication is really how you
Yeah.
get by. And it hasn't really caused any kind of a conflict or tension or anything, which is great. Um, and I think it's great to be able to express creatively, I suppose, to somewhat overlapping but quite distinct, really, pools of influences that I draw from it. But I think it's helpful the development, I think, of a person creatively be able to explore all facets of their musicianship, and in that way kind of bring what you get back from that back into every project. I think, um, stuff that I do with Pamela and the musicianship that I will bring therapy or and vice versa. And it's yeah, it's busy out. Like it's especially the last couple of even the last year with Pamela and with therapy horse as well. It kind of it's great to have stuff recorded, and we can kind of get the name out there a bit more. So it's busy, but it's good. It hasn't really been an issue in terms of balancing or energy or anything like that.
Perfect. And the other thing I wanted to ask on that is when it came to doing this project coinciding with Pebbledash, did you kind of want to make the two things kind of sonically diverse in terms of like, I don't know, make them distinct in their own way, or was there no consideration for that? You just, whatever the music was, that's what the music was going to be?
Well, I think there's quite a large um, difference actually between the direction that we've ended up taking with Therapy Horse than there would be with Peplash. Um, Even if maybe some of the influences that we would have started with myself and Emily songwriting kind of similar, but um, I don't really think there's much of a conscious thing of going, these projects have to be distinct. I think Emily is an incredibly like singular voice as a songwriter. I think and as a bass player and just doing so much heavy unconventional stuff, I think there's never really been a chance that the two bands would end in a similar place, especially once the lineup of myself and Emily kind of coalesced. Um, and I think being a three piece as well, it just lends itself to a very particular sound that is very noticeably distinct to a band that's maybe like, a Peplash and a four piece or five piece or six piece. There's obviously synth and keys and things like that. Um, so I think it's just been kind of natural and inevitable, really, that the two projects have sounded very, very different. And I think we pulled from different influences for definite. I think, like Emily, into, as you kind of said, a lot of really horrible, abrasive, off-putting stuff like, they are obviously Irish contemporaries like Gilban and stuff like that. Lingo Ignata from outside Ireland is one we've talked about a lot. But even myself, in terms of my guitar playing and therapy hooks, I'd be drawing inspiration from, bands like Yvette or like kind of 70s wave players and stuff like Sonny Sharrock and DNA. And that's just not really, I suppose, influences to play in Dash at all. That was a very long-winded answer, but
No, 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 no. That's a great answer. Emily, I want to ask you. Such on there that you'd actually subbed for Pebble Dash on a tour. I was wondering, like, how did you find that, like, the bass playing other people's parts, and kind of contrasted to what you're accustomed to and what you would do yourself organically, I guess.
I think maybe it's the kind of background that I had as well. I often feel like so the like I found the bass parts especially on the EP actually, for Portraits, the Same Ugly House.
Hmm.
I remember sitting down and learning them, and it was before it was released as well. So I was listening to these like tracks on SoundCloud and being like, God, you know, this is very classy bass playing. And I'm a bit of a like I've been playing bass for geez nearly 10 years now, and I do have a bit of a background in some of the technical stuff. Like musical theatre is probably the most difficult thing genre I've ever had to do, and I did a fair bit of that in school. And I did a lot of jazz in college, weirdly. I kind of got roped into that. So even though I had a bit of a background in that, it nearly feels like the stuff in Therapy Horse I do is just like it's a bit of a I don't want to say deconstruction because that sounds very lofty, but it does kind of feel like the direct opposite of the stuff that I spent years and years playing. But it was kind of nice, like sitting down, learning the parts for Pebbledash, because especially one of my favorite ones to play live with the lads and to learn was Alone Forsaken, because it's a really cool there's this bass kind of lick in the intro, and it's repeated 4 times. And kind of you're just working up and down just like it's like a harmonic scale, but the way that Jack, their old bassist, played it, it's really classy and cool and technical, and it's not really the kind of stuff I go for in Therapy Horse. So it's a fun little break, and it was a really fun challenge too, because the I think what's cool about Pebble Dash too is that like everyone has really contrasting musical backgrounds. You know, like Fiona and Trad are very much Fiona and Ash are very much steeped in kind of the trad world, and Cormac has whatever he has going on. Cormac has his everything. And I think they're a very, harmonically interesting band. And it was cool figuring out where to sit in that. And the lads were really lovely to play with as well. I mean, again, like I've actually known all of them for a good while now. So it's it was really nice, and it was cool to get that experience because a lot of it was even just playing in cities and venues that I hadn't even really been to before. That was class. But yeah, and then I suppose in Therapy Horse, my ethos is more I actually feel much more relaxed because I don't really do anything maybe not technically demanding. I think of myself as more of a textural bass player, and it's even been pointed out that I think because we're a three-piece, it kind of demands me to nearly fill the role of kind of a rhythm guitarist. And my approach to bass playing as well is kind of just hit the feckin' thing, like because that's how I get the tone I want, and using a bunch of weird pedals and stuff. So yeah, very, very different contrasting, I think, roles of the bass in each band. But it was a really good learning experience as well. I think it was a really fun challenge, and but definitely so I definitely had to think a lot more about what I was doing.
Yeah, I have to ask also, do you find it easy to sing and play bass at the same time? Because I think a lot of bassists who are also vocalists tend to just kind of stick to root notes. Because I think a lot of times when you're trying to be a bit more dexterous, it can I don't know, it can really
Mm.
mess with your head a little bit to try and play complex bass parts while simultaneously singing. Has that been difficult for you, or is it kind of
Yeah,
instinctual?
that was for sure another thing that was kind of a learning experience. I still find it difficult, and even then, yeah, like the parts I write are, they're again, I suppose any of the complexity comes more from how I'm thinking about the sound or where it sits, or it's very much kind of caveman playing. But it has gotten easier, yeah. I probably, I'm trying to get myself to be a bit more daring and creative, but I think sometimes as well I throw myself around on stage a fair bit, and sometimes it can be hard to to play something complex. We did a gig recently in Dolly in Cork, and the lighting was really cool, but it was so dark. And I was playing on a new bass, which was it was a short scale that I'd only bought like the week before. And oh my God, there were flashes of it. The room would go completely dark, and then we'd have red lights on it, but it was very, it was kind of strobe lighting nearly. And I
Mhm.
kept kind of being like, oh my God, am I on the right fret? Because everything was so loud and noisy that I was like, am I in the right key? I actually, because even the instrument felt so different because it was a new one. Yeah, but it's gotten easier.
And just one final thing on that. On an average gig, how many times would you open E?
How
How many
many?
times? How many times would you play an open E?
Oh, how many times? Hmm. That's actually interesting. Let me be clear, it's in E. So it goes between that a bit.
Well, you do
Ah,
play in standard tuning, do you? Or
oh yeah, no, I actually, yeah. Oh, sorry, my brain. I actually, I play in standard. I want to play around a bit more with that though, because I was messing around with BEAD tuning a
yeah.
little bit there, and I was like, this would be perfect. Why have I not been doing this the whole time? But literally, yeah, the whole set I just play in standard. I'm really boring.
No, that's the thing. It's like I was thinking like Sonic Youth, and they had like Lee Ronaldo and Turson Moore would just be trying to create the most dexterous tuning ever. Like I don't know, the
Mhm.
most like complex out of the box. Just like I think Turson Moore explained that he would just mess around with the tuning while open strumming, and just when something sounded nice, then he would start kind of crafting a song. But then like Kim always just played her bass in standard tuning. I'm like,
Yeah, that's
that's what I want.
basically yeah, I think I do. The messing around. I was doing some messing around all right, with BAD and with drop C sharp and
Mhm.
because it was kind of recommended. Just I remember I can't remember, I was talking to one of my friends anyway about it, and I was like, this is great. Why have I never done this? But I think that was one thing I was boxed into because I had that background of doing a lot of, again, sight reading and, I suppose the musical theater and jazz and that more technical stuff where like you never really have to change it, and that's definitely a box that I want to break myself out of a little bit.
Yeah.
You should see the tunings that Cormac uses, though they're nuts.
Yeah, I heard they're quite out of the box. How do you go about like deciding your tuning, Cormac?
Um, well, yeah, I suppose the Thurston Moore approach is definitely kind of one that I work off of to a large degree, especially because a lot of our songwriting um, is quite, um, I suppose, jam based. So there's often a lot of space for me to kind of find what works and what doesn't kind of harmonically when I'm trying out a new tuning. But that's kind of how I would go about it a lot of the time. And it's sometimes it can be quite funny as well because there's an Instagram page that's based out of Cork. It's a Ceol of Cork, and sort of posts set lists from local bands. And he recently grabbed ours from a headline gig we did in Dollery there with Guillotines and Mother Pearl, and we were doing a cover of Venus and Furs by Donovan, and for this song, I just decided to do like somebody like Arlo Lindsay now or someone from DNA would have done just E all across the board and have them on his thread or something. And there's just it's these things written down and on the set list. I remember one or two of my friends were sending me this post after it. They're like, "What the fuck are you doing?" It's like, this is a joke, man. And I was like, that's what you got to do sometimes. But I think um, it's fun. It's fun, especially in a genre like this, to experiment with stretching the conventions of the sounds that you can get out of a guitar to an extent. And as well as that, I think I have a lot of really use unconventional pedals, and I just plug everything into a Korg Chaos Pad sampler as well.
Yeah.
So it's great craft to see what you can do with that. And Sonic Youth would be like a huge inspiration for me as well, especially the early like Confusionist Sex kind of very Glenn Branca influenced stuff where like it's not even something like the Burning Spear or something. It's not even nice to listen to, like, but it's great. Like,
Yeah, I actually do
um,
find that Confusion and Sex quite difficult to listen to.
We've had arguments over
Essentially.
yeah.
this because
But I love it. Like,
I'm more of a goo person now myself.
Oh,
yeah,
I'm very boring. I'm a very Daydream Nation kid.
Yeah, I mean they're all good.
It's such a good record, but I
yeah,
actually
they're great.
actually recently I've been getting very into Evol. I don't know. I always
Mm.
liked that record, but like recently I'm just like, wow, Tom Violence in particular is just such a amazing song, and I just love that record. It's and I also when growing up I was like, like as a teenager it was like Daydream Nation and like Sister. It was like those two records I'd always listen to, and I actually never listened to too much post. Dirty. Maybe I should.
Oh yeah, Dirty
Yeah,
is. I was obsessed with Dirty when I was a teenager, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's definitely their
fantastic.
most like kind of I guess like alternative rock, kind of in the genre. But it's interesting too because Goo kind of predates the popularity of a lot of that just by like a year or two, and that like everyone like points to Nevermind as being like the progenitor for like the music of the 90s. But like I don't know, Thank You got there first. They beat them by a year.
Yeah, we often have. I think that'd be a big thing, a big difference between myself and Cormac actually is I think I was kind of raised in a lot of the 90s college rock stuff just from my parents, but
Like what
I
sort of
like
stuff would you listen to?
oh God, it was especially when I was a teenager, I was massive into Smashing Pumpkins. Cormac
Yeah,
hates them. Big
I'm with you.
yeah, I love they're so close to my heart. Like even though like Billy Corgan's gone really strange and nothing they really produced after Adore is very good, but you
Yeah.
know, but yeah, I was big
You
into Sonic
separate the
Youth.
art from the artist, I guess, and you
You
kind of have
agree?
to, you know.
I know any of those 90s ones, they've all gone weird. Big Nirvana person, like I In Utero is still massive album for me. And all the kind of quintessential big into pavement, all of those. But I think a lot of that, like we were talking about this, a lot of the hallmarks of 90s stuff that I like the kind of, the real accented vocals, like there are things that Cormac hates. This is a discussion that came about because I think I put on a Bill to Spill album and he was like, please turn this off. It's awful. But yeah,
So Cormac likes more atypical music. Is that fair to say?
Well, I think the modern stuff I like is more atypical, but I think the 90s stuff, that's kind of my heart. That was kind of and I think because actually, like, there were, I think it was because I was into that, that was kind of why I wanted to start playing bass initially, because I was a teenager and I was like, not really so much 90s, but I've seen like Kim Deal, and then further on, obviously, you have Darcy Retsky, like all of
Yeah.
those. It was like, and Kim Gordon was huge too, and I was like, I want to be just like those ladies. So
Yeah. No, actually, that's like the 90s bands actually did have some good women representation. I think
they
it's
did.
it's interesting because it was always like, yeah, as you mentioned, like Pumpkins and Sonic Youth and stuff. It was always kind of like, and the Pixies and stuff. It was always like the woman
Yeah.
bassist.
Yeah, Melissa Aufdermar was another one. She was kind of everywhere for a bit. Like it's
Yeah.
yeah, but I saw that and I wanted that.
Yeah, no, I was crazy into Riot Girl. I was into that genre for a bit because I just thought the music was really good.
So
A lot
good.
of overlooked acts. People remember like L7 and stuff, but there were so many great bands from that scene that I just don't think get remembered. And I don't know. Anyway, I want to ask actually, just an interesting thing there based on what you're saying. Do you find that not only the commonalities you guys have as listeners, but also the contrasts? Do you think that's beneficial to have that kind of confliction in terms of what you like, in terms of evolving the sound? So it's not just people, I guess, like, I don't know, there's add a layer of complexity because if people are just sort of going, yes, that's good, yes, I agree with that, I don't know, the music can be good, but like kind of within a parameter, I guess. Whereas if people are constantly critiquing and your influence and stuff like that, I think like it can diversify your palette a little bit. I don't know if that's your experience.
I think so. I think it's all in good spirit now, to be fair, but
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no
and
fights breaking out in the studio.
absolutely.
we're all pretty nice to each other, but oh God, I wish Shook was here now because he hates everything. It's brilliant. He's got like insane
I think
influences. Oh, did
like
I put
I
across
think
you?
there's a bit of a I think my connection might just be a bit slow. Apologies, you're gone.
No worries, no worries.
Um, but I think with Chuck, he's into totally different music again than the two of us would be. He tends to find stuff that he listens to through like YouTube music and SoundCloud rabbit holes, and it's like you could be in the car driving with him, and he'd be like, "Oh, I've been listening to this, lately. I really love it," and it would just be like a Japanese prog song from the 70s, and you'd be like, "Oh, this is a great tune. What's the name of this?" He'd be like, "I have no idea, man. Look at that." And like, obviously,
So funny.
he'd be like, "What are you on about?" And he he's a very contrasting taste to us again. I suppose like a lot of drummers as well, you know, he's into a lot of his stone rock and guitar and stuff like that. But um, I think we're all very like open to um, kind of listening to what the other people in the band hear in a song and
Mm.
what we can kind of bring to it according to what our own taste is. And it manages to come together into something cohesive most of the time. But it's like um, that differences definitely, I think, are more productive for a band than they are reductive. I think it's never a case where we're there like we just can't meet in the middle of a song because, you know, Emily likes the Smashing Pumpkins and I don't like the Smashing Pumpkins or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
But it's it's always very it's actually always very fruitful, and it's nice to be in a situation as well where you're not just kind of writing songs one after the other almost in a very road process. It's always very like involved because everybody does have um you know strong opinions, but opinions that are still like expressed politely and everything. But it's like it's better that way. I think that there's so much difference as well because it just makes things much more interesting. And I think you see that even the ways that a track like Let Me Be Clear has turned out, where obviously you've Emily doing these like amazing solos and stuff kind of at the climax of the song, and you have Joe's drum part, which is so him, especially with like the stick licks and stuff like that. It's just such a shook move, and you have the outro then where it sort of sends into this kind of it's just kind of noise and sampled vocals and stuff, which is very much coming from the music that I would have made and stuff. And I think it's a nice microcosm of the ways in which those differences kind of make Therapy Horse what it is.
And before we talk about the single, I just actually want to ask about the I guess the popularity the band's had before even having a release. So you mentioned like headlining Dolly. You've had some like great support slots and great opportunities too. How does that kind of work, I guess, just like, you know, as a band who doesn't have music out, to be able to to get these opportunities? I mean, I assume you'd have like demos to send promoters and venues, or maybe not.
Yeah, we have a few. Like the we a lot of them were just recorded now, just leaving an iPhone on the ground in our practice space. So they're a little lo-fi, but we've been really lucky to share the stage with some really cool people. Like I remember we opened for I Dreamed I Dream in their
Mm.
Easter EP launch back in April this year. And that was amazing. Like they would be friends of ours as well. They're a really great bunch and they're just so cool and talented. I love them. Um it was amazing sharing the stage with them. But yeah, we have a few little demos. We are hoping to get a bit more properly recorded as well. So we've Let Me Be Clear obviously coming in August, and we have another track on the way, possibly.
TBA, TBA.
TBA. But yeah, like I Dreamed I Dream were amazing to gig with. And they're a band that I've kind of they one of my favorite Cork bands for years now. And recently did the Tinnitus Promotions fundraiser for Palestine. That was with Crying Loser and Twitcher. And it was nuts actually because again, like I think I remember even working in that radio station back in like 2022, 23 when the Crying Loser album came out and like the two of us talking about it and kind of being like, talking about like kind of no wave and stuff and all that went into that. And like, even just, I think it kind of being so lucky to get those opportunities, it does put I'm going to use a phrase, fire in my belly again, but
Hmm.
it puts a bit of a fire in your belly to constantly improve and constantly kind of try to do things that are more interesting. I think our live show, a lot of that is very improvised as well. There's certain songs which, much to Cormac's chagrin, I think I'm not sure if myself and Shook play them the same ever, ever. Or even like Let Me Be Clear live, the whole thing, it just kind of descends into like this uh like wall of static, which is it's really fun. It's very cathartic to perform, but I think it does make you hold yourself to a certain standard being surrounded by people who are so in their craft.
And actually, just before we get on to single, one thing you mentioned the live show there, and how it's kind of improvisational. I was wondering, like, actually, when it comes to the kind of alternative tunings and things like that, do you have like different guitars on standby for different songs, or do you actually have to retune each time, or like how does that kind of work in terms of like the actual flow and the pace of the show?
Yeah, so I do indeed. I'm one of those really obnoxious lads who have like three guitars on stage, and it's well, it depends on what the set is at times. Sometimes you get by with two, but I'd have a Telecaster that sort of I would use for many of the songs on the sets. Um, great because it's a semi-hollow, and just the feedback that you get off it is so responsive, and it's brilliant. And I think that's the guitar that I use for recording, that I would use for Let Me Be Clear now. And then I'd have just a just kind of a Squire Jag that is often in the same tuning, but the thing is that just, the bridge on those offset guitars, you can do some kind of high pitched noise stuff that I need for some other tunes. And then so there's about three guitars going at the one time, and it keeps the actual tuning to a minimum, which is handy. There's still a bit of that, but it's just the switching over guitars, and usually we sort of jam through that, um, and maybe do a bit of talking. But yeah, it's something that I'd like to just the more we gig as well, the smoother these things get all the time. But I think I should probably start writing some of the songs in more similar tunings for the ease of everybody's lives. Because it's like we're driving up to a gig now tomorrow in Galway. Apologies for the beeping noise that's around there. But I'll have the three guitars in the back seat, like, so it's a bit of a dose, but you know, it's grand.
And
Yeah.
then when it comes to the actual single, it's going to be releasing about 2 weeks from when we're speaking. And it's let me be clear. And I was wondering why you chose this song as like kind of the debut kind of like record, the debut single, I guess, to kind of introduce the world to Therapy Horse.
I think it's my favorite one to play live anyway out of the set. And I think it does encapsulate a good bit of our ethos. I think it's definitely a bit of an oddball track. Doesn't have a chorus, doesn't have any singing. But yeah, I think that was kind of one of the first songs as well where basically we're a really jammy band. Like most of our songs really come about just from like going in and just jamming and throwing stuff at the wall and then refining it. And it's a process of refinement that some of the songs they take months and months to get to a stage where like we're happy gigging them. Like we started writing in like March of 2024. I want to say our first gig was until like a year later. We're very, even though we're kind of, noisy and feedbacky and everything, I think we are quite perfectionistic when it comes to structure and like making a song stand out. And that was one of the first ones I think really stood out to us. It originally came about from I'm really nerdy, so I studied English as well. Like I was saying, I would write a little bit of poetry and stuff on the side, and it came from kind of a spoken word thing I'd written. I was on the train and I was really angry. And so it was originally kind of a long spoken word thing. And we kind of brought that to, kind of combine that with an instrumental, I suppose. And it took a bit of shape as that. But the screaming, again, that just kind of came out in a jam, and it wasn't really something that I had done before. And it just, I think it kind of worked. So it seemed to just fit in intuitively quite well with the themes of the song and the emotion I was trying to get across and everything. Um, and I think that's how it just kind of became like our favorite one to do. And I just think it's a good introduction to us as a band. A lot of our stuff is more contrasting too. We do some more melodic, more shoegazy kind of stuff in our set as well. But I think that's the song that to me feels like the most us, like thematically and musically.
Cormac, do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I don't even know if there's much more that can be said on it than that. But I think it is just such a fun song to play live. I remember the
Mm.
first gig we ever did was in the record room there in Limerick. And even that first gig, and obviously when you're playing the first gig in a new project, you're always kind of like um not apprehensive, but you're unsure of how some songs that you just played loads of times in rehearsal space to be received by people. But even really like Let Me Clear, and we always close our set with that song. Um, and I think it was a very natural one to release as like the debut single. And like we were kind of talking about, we have another single recorded in the same session. I think it was a bit of a no-brainer to release this one first because I think this one is again, as you say, as well, thematically just so much kind of what our songwriting tends to be about. I think it's just a great document of uh, as well, even just the approach that I have as a guitar player, the approach Emily has as a bass player, the approach Chuck has as a drummer, and what we kind of have as the concept musically for Therapy Horse in our head. I think there was very little like discussion that that should be the first single in amongst ourselves. We were just like, yeah, this is
Mm.
definitely the one that we want people to think of the first kind of push of this like, project into the world, I suppose.
And I want to talk about three things about the single, then I'll let you get on your day. The first, actually, Emily, I wanted to actually talk about the themes of the song because I'll be honest with you, I couldn't actually discern the lyrics so well. So maybe if you
That's
could
fair.
talk a bit about it. So,
Yeah. So definitely a song I put a lot of myself into. I would say it's one that's very personal to me, but it's basically about it's it's about kind of um like abuse, specifically kind of misogynistic abuse, and about kind of the it's like I think there's nearly like an act one and an act two of the song, I suppose. And again, probably a very English student way of viewing
Mhm.
it. But I would say it kind of suppose starts with kind of parsing these feelings and like this emotional blunting that, a lot of people have to experience to survive, experiencing um experiencing like a traumatic event. And I would say that the second part where it gets really loud, it's this big emotional release and it's this realization of what you've been put through and kind of no longer wanting to be the person that just takes it, and tapping into your anger is something cleansing. I know we spoke a little bit, we've kind of made allusions to like Lingua Ignota being a big influence for the band. And even though obviously she's incredibly sophisticated and someone that I would feel a little bit shy about kind of saying, was an influence, because she's like a genius with her kind of the neoclassical dark wave compositions she has going on. And it's like metal without guitars basically, or
Yeah.
noise without guitars. But I think the way that she writes about her personal experiences and distills them, and you know the way she's able to communicate like raw emotion and anger and pain, but also fear at the same time, was really, I think was really like a huge influence when we were writing that song. Um, I think, and it's one as well that's very, cathartic to perform as well. Like it's one that we put a lot of ourselves into. But that's kind of the main thing, really. It's about kind of navigating trauma and realizing that, you've been through something horrific and there isn't anything good to come out of it, but you can start anew. I suppose even though it doesn't sound hopeful to me, it is a hopeful song.
yeah, I can't speak obviously from first-hand experience about like misogynistic abuse, but or trauma rather. But I do think when it comes to any kind of trauma, yeah, when you kind of recognize it, it's a difficult pattern. Then like it
Mhm.
is sort of starting anew in a way, but that's not to say that your problems are fixed. It can be a long and very non-linear journey, I guess, to kind of correcting that.
Mm.
So like. making songs about or making art about this sort of stuff is can be kind of tricky because like I don't know to some degree like I don't know how to describe this, but to some degree you can kind of think like you're over something or you realize something and then you kind of realize you're not later on. But like as much you're comfortable talking about, was that something that like kind of worried you in terms of putting it onto a record? Is that like, well, maybe my perception of this now or isn't going to be like what it is tomorrow, if that makes sense? Because like I think when you are kind of dealing with drama, it kind of comes in waves and I don't know, kind of crashes, and it's just I don't know, like I said, non-linear.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think again, like the piece that it was originally, those lyrics were originally taken from was written like about a year and a half ago. And from again from a place of realizing, this it was kind of about realizing you'd all this anger and this fear stored up that you didn't even realize was there. And now I think it's more maybe now performing it again, I'm feeling I have a much different view, and I think that's why I can kind of hear that, not to be all, this is my fight song, girl boss,
Sure.
but I think I can hear a lot more of the like it does feel a lot more hopeful, and not to get buzzwordy, but empowering to be performing that. And you know
You
I
shouldn't be
think
so afraid of cliches, by the way. That's like the second time you've done that. Like cliches
I
are okay; they
think
exist for a reason.
I think I am. Yeah, I think I am. And I think I suppose it's tricky to talk about, but
Sure.
yeah, I love performing it as well. And I definitely think there's it's when you've put so much of yourself into it as well. It can I suppose it kind of shows the power of art and healing. I remember the first Cork gigs we played, a good friend of ours like came up to us and was like, "Oh, he was talking about how like he read somewhere that like art is a wound turned to light, and that it kind of came to mind seeing us." And I think that definitely resonated with me. Like I wanted to kind of just, I suppose, again, just drawing on, painful experiences and painful memories and turning them into something that, makes me feel, I suppose more confident in myself, and that, I suppose hopefully resonates with people, because there's a lot of artists who've done the same that I think have really, resonated with me as well.
And when it comes to the actual the music and the vocal performance, I had two notes here that I just want to reference. So for me, the intro of the song remind me of the theme tune to Peter Gunn. I don't know if that's what you're going for, but that's honestly what I was thinking of. I was thinking of that theme tune for some reason, and I don't know if these were influences for for you, Emily, but two vocalists that your vocal delivery kind of remind me of was Roisin Gerald from formerly of Mail and Carla Chubb of Sprints. When you scream, very to me it was kind of evocative of them. I don't know if they're influences for you or not, but
Oh, I adore Mail. I love, 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 love their music. Their new album is fantastic. Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I remember getting into them in 2022, like right after that Attachment Styles had come out.
yeah.
And yeah, definitely I think they'd be one that would be big for us. Sprints as well are class. I have not seen them live yet, and I'd love
Oh,
to.
they're really good.
Oh my God, her like screams are amazing. Yeah. I think others that I've kind of been like other vocalists, specifically woman vocalists, I think I would really take on a beat. Like Florence Shaw of Dry Cleaning is fantastic. And again, I mean, she's a little bit more tongue in cheek, and she doesn't really sing at all. Like it's all spoken word, but her real deadpan, matter of fact, but also, kind of dryly funny style is something that I really admire. I think she's just the coolest as well. I really like that she's just on stage, just like she just makes standing there and looking cool. There's just something effortless about her, and I think she's a really witty writer as well. Um, but yeah, definitely like there'd be a lot of ones as well, like bands. The name is fun, but the name is failing me. But the lead vocalist from Gouge Away and from Latter, they'd be like a post-hardcore noisy band from Philadelphia. Like
Mhm.
again, it's a sole idea, I suppose, of just drawing out like that anger and everything. I think they do amazingly. They're just such powerful vocalists. So, and I've only really learned how to scream. I've absolutely no technique last
You
year.
know, actually, I actually honestly think that screaming is more daunting than singing.
Oh my God, absolutely. God,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Like, and I think it's just this kind of, it's very difficult to just stand there and do it when you're sound checking too.
Yeah. Well, it's also yeah, because like every time you do a performance, there's that expectation, the screaming. So actually, do you have to draw on that to in order to invoke it, or is it just sort of like rote memory now?
Yeah, I think it's definitely memory now. I think Cormac probably like he'll laugh because I think he's seen me during a few sound checks where they're like, "Oh, can you give us like your loud vocals?" And I just be like, "Right, give me a second, give me a second."
How
Like
far
rub
back
my
from the
hands
mic do
together.
you stand? You're like ah.
Yeah, it's really funny. Yeah, but yeah, I think it's getting easier. It's getting easier, and he does a bit of that too now in some of our other tunes. So
Perfect, guys. Thanks very much for talking to me. I just want to wrap by asking, future plans. You mentioned that there's a follow-up coming soon. Obviously the single's coming out. But beyond that, like aspirations, I guess, for the end of the year and into next year. I'm already in 2026 mode.
ooh, forward thinking.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
It's if you have chronophobia, which is like a fear of time moving past, do not get into journalism because you always have to think like a month in ahead.
Oh my God,
yeah,
And you're just
it's
like,
so
oh
weird.
God,
I
the
think
year is gone.
after it, certainly this song like comes out, uh, we have a nice couple of gigs lined up. We're doing kind of a gig swap with Silverglass there. Brilliant kind of electronic math rock glitchy
Yeah.
band there from
But
Dublin.
yeah, I
So
won't actually. Do you want to plug those gigs? Because I won't have the one for tomorrow in Galway. I won't have this out by then. But for the ones in September that are listed,
absolutely, yeah. So we're going to have September the 6th. We are supporting Silverglass upstairs in Whelan's,
yeah.
which should be the first Dublin therapy horse outing, which will be great crack.
If you
And
give me a
they're
shot, I might try and pop
fantastic
along to
lads.
that.
Oh, brilliant, absolutely. Thank you. And then we are having them down to Cork September the 11th, and they're supporting us in the Kino. And we're also joined there by Lily Line, who would be the front person of Nerves, who are great Cork shoegaze band, that she kind of has a solo band together herself as well. So there'll be members of Baby Rat, there'll be members of Tent Box, Sam Healy plays with them, he do bits of nasty and stuff at times. So that's her solo stuff is really, really cool as well. And so herself, Silverglass, and us, that's September 11th in the Kino and September 6th in Whelan's. Um, and we've, as we say, another single in the can, so that'll be coming down the line some stage in the next while. Um, yeah, and we have a few bits kind of germinating for
Mm.
the rest of 2025. Besides that, we have a few gigs kind of discussion that we're I suppose not at the confirming
Sure, you're not at
plugging
liberty to
stage yet.
speak about.
But yeah, we've a few things kind of planned, and we're really, really excited. And I think definitely for the next year we want to do more recording because we have quite a kind of a good idea of a lot of the songs that we've been gigging since the early Therapy Horse shows because we spent so long in the rehearsal studio before we started gigging, I suppose. So we're eager to get like an EP or something a bit more substantial like that out, I think, in
I
the
hope
next year.
we
And
get
just do,
to. Oh, sorry, I cut across you. I thought you
yeah,
were done.
no, just do
Zoom
loads more
life.
gigs now.
Honestly, so I actually wasn't even. I was gonna say I hope we get to headline the marquee next year, and it's not funny now because I think it's doable.
Actually, sorry, I promise this will be the last question. I'll let you go. But I just want to ask actually, the Cork music scene, and obviously you being from Limerick, Emily, two very interesting scenes that I think are really blown up, especially Cork at the moment. But
Mm.
Limerick is no slouch either. A lot of gigs actually, a lot of like international acts are kind of coming to like what's the castle called? I forget the name in
Oh,
Limerick.
King John's Castle. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And obviously like a lot of smaller acts now. which I think is really cool, is that like, years ago it was like they'd only play like Dublin, Belfast, and now it's like, they're doing like Cork and Limerick and Galway and stuff, and they, like kind of touring the country a bit. From your perspective, as people who are actually living in those scenes and kind of adjacent to those scenes, do you find that it is blowing up in any way? Like, does the attention that Cork seems to be getting, is that tangible in the music scene, or is it kind of more abstract?
I would say for sure in Cork. Cormac would have, I suppose, a bit more of a scope on this, just being in Pebbledash, who are kind of getting a bit more attention. But it is funny just seeing, I think we were talking about this, seeing your friends in HD when people get picked up. But it's really, yeah, it's definitely, no, it's like, I think it's definitely something you can feel, and I think there's a lot of new younger talent springing up out of UCC all the time, really, and it's a very exciting place to be at the moment, you know. It is a bit crazy because you see these bands who are doing, these mad, really impressive gigs and having these appearances, and it's like, oh my God, I saw you for a fiver 2 years ago, you know. But it's lovely. It's a really nice feeling.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I definitely feel like Cork is really exciting. I think a lot of cities in Ireland have a venue problem, but I think it does apply to some extent in Cork, but we've a lot of really good small venues. I mean, Dali kind of coming back as not just a dance venue anymore. Like, it was obviously a really cool kind of techno
Yeah.
electronic music space, but now they've started doing kind of really cool anything and everything gigs. We've been able to play there a few times. We're really
And I
lucky.
think I read the other day that Fred's turned 25.
Crazy. And like
Yeah.
Fred's, I mean, I think there's no scene without like the Fredses of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you
I
need,
think ours is Fibbers, I guess.
yeah, exactly. There's a lot of really cool venues and a lot of very cool, open-minded promoters. And I think that's really important too, because there's a lot of class weirdo bands out there. Plugs that we played only recently as well. I've seen some mad stuff there in the best way. Like, it's a really cool spot just for the, electronic, experimental ambient side of things. But yeah, I know Cormac would have a bit more to say than me about that as well, just because he gigs a little bit more often being in the two bands.
Yeah, I think you definitely touched on something with the venue situation as well. I think Dali and Eno kind of coming back as well has really plugged a bit of a gap in that like mid-sized venue thing. Like we're still not in I think like a fully opportune situation yet, because I think less stuff going on in some places. Like there's a bit of an ebb and flow, like small penis activity and things like that. But it's definitely been really, really good lately. And just like you're saying about some bands that have been getting a lot of in international, attention from the UK and continent and stuff like that, like partners and difference and stuff like that. Like that's amazing, and I think it makes it feel in the music scene like sky is the limit to an extent. Like I think people are to give themselves a bit more of a push as well, because they see their friends or people who they'd have seen in Fred's only a few years ago, or who were, very much running in the same circles as them, doing so well, and they're like, oh, there could be a bit of capitalist music thing, and like, it's a great motivator, I think, and it's great to see even bands who'd be a few years younger than us, who might be, as you say, when they come into the UCC, like there's younger bands like Keen are really cool, um, they are cool, Keen, like Brainwreck are really, really cool lads. And they're all just so kind of unique and of themselves, and they're all kind of so like after it, and it's great to see. Um, and I think that's kind of the effect that having a few bands get a bit of a push in a local scene can have. I think it can kind of be such like a great um, vitality for everybody else as well. So I think Cork is really, really great the last few years. It's a really fantastic time, and I think even the bands that have been going for a good while, before COVID and stuff, people like Elaine Malone or like Truffle Dean or Carmen Loser, like they're still making unbelievable music, and it's not just people in their early 20s or like that. It's just consistently brilliant across the board.
Perfect, guys. The one fun thing I'll say, just I wish there was more all ages venues in the country. That's the only thing. I wish, because as you mentioned, music generation,
Yeah.
fostering teenage kids, get kids into music, man. Give them the
Hmm.
opportunities, and they will come. Although I know the Grand Social now is doing all ages matinee shows, which I think is great. I'd love to see that trend extend nationwide. I don't know if there's anything like that in Cork. Actually, is there like matinees for kids or anything?
They've started, I know that there was one group of teenage bands held an all ages gig and it was an all dayer one in the Kino. Which was really, I know, and again, I suppose I can't speak to this because I'm not from Cork, but I know Cormac, you talk about like ground floor a lot from when you were younger.
Yeah, so the crowd who put on that gig in the Kino actually, give them a bit of a plug. I think it's like they're all sort of doing. They would have come out of that ground floor scene and doing gigs
Yeah.
in the YMCA. And that's, I think they're going under, that was called Swarm Fest, I think, and they're going
I
under like
think so.
Honey Power Records, which is really cool. I think there's a few bands like that now, like Serial Mom and stuff like that, who would be, um, still sort of that end of secondary school kind of age, and they're class, like they're really, really cool. So that is great to see. It's very, thing about the all ages gigs in Cork at the moment is I think it's very like DIY in a way. There isn't really anything like music, large extent is there as a facilitator. I think a lot of it is quite self-motivated at the time. Now, I'm a few, years out from that as well, so I'm not as clued into it as I could be, and I could be missing something there as well. So it seems to be really, really fueled by the people themselves who are just like super into it and super active, which is class. And the music seems really, really cool as well. Um, and it's nice that venues like are open to doing that kind of thing. But it's definitely something like music then, even from like a kind of a pedagogical like learning perspective, like it just seems so well rounded. It produces like musicians who are so knowledgeable about their craft, and that kind of thing should absolutely be kind of in place all over the country. And like it could,
Perfect. Thanks very much for your time, guys. Is there anything you'd like to add before we wrap up and I didn't cover? Oh, and plug your socials and all that too.
Yeah, our
uh,
Instagram is the
yeah,
main
it's
one. Oh, do you want to go first? I've done all the talking.
Zoom life.
Yeah.
yeah, Brad, it's like at Therapy Horse IRE. It's like therapy dot horse at IRE, and that's kind of the main one. Is the Instagram. We've yet to get on the dances there. We'll have to get a few of those for that to be clear. Like,
I think we need to make a TikTok dance for
yeah,
it, to be
that's the
clear.
main place.
Yeah, we've been talking about this. I think that's, what we would need is like a 5 second soundbite that will really launch us into our full-time career as noise rock musicians. Or are you going to say the thing you always say, Cormac?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just something. Yeah, that has been pointed out to me that I do tend to say whenever people are asking us for a final word, is I am just like death to our enemies. So death to our enemies, I suppose that's. But yeah.
Death to your enemies.
He
Perfect,
doesn't
guys.
like when he's encouraged because they don't like him doing it in Pebbledash. So I think it's very strange that I'm like, oh, say that. We do things weirder
This is a
here.
Yeah,
fostering band. This fosters
Yeah,
your homicidal
yeah,
instincts.
exactly.
yeah.
Perfect, guys. Well, actually, you don't want to be like Bob Villain. Like getting shaken up for so.
He's pretty, yeah, they're
I
pretty cool.
I, I no, I love Bob Villain.
Yeah,
That's not to say I disagree with the sentiment.
yeah, but I think that's our target is to be banned from America.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you literally just have to do anything.
Literally, yeah. I'm actually just filling up my phone with Photoshop pictures of JD Vance as a baby. That's
Sending it to the
serious
White
enough.
House account.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
Excuse
God.
me.
Thanks very much for your time, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Aaron. It's been such a pleasure chatting to you. Thank
Lovely
you.
to talk to you too, Emily, and you too, Cormac.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Have a good one.
You too. Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We're available wherever you get your podcasts, so we hope that you enjoyed and would consider subscribing, giving it a like on YouTube, or a rating anywhere else. We also have some exclusive episodes only available on Spotify, which features interviews with the likes of Kim Deal, Ron Mail of Sparks, Jacob Slater of Wonder Horse, Maria Kelly, Gavin Friday, and many more. So check those out if you're so inclined. Otherwise, thank you for listening and see you next time.